It is Saturday, June 25th of 2022 here on Devin Song Reviews. We have a really cool lineup of songs to review today. If you're new to the show, basically what this is a weekly show that I do every Saturday for a couple of hours. I do song reviews for independent musicians. One, it's a good platform for independent musicians to have their music heard by others that are tuning in to watch. I'm using some of the experience that I have doing music and home recording and things like that to sort of just give another set of ears and listen and give a little bit of a critique and feedback on the music that I'm listening to so that musicians can, just hear something that they hadn't heard before so that next time they go to mix their music, they can watch out for some of the things that they didn't realize that they needed to do. So it comes from a place of positivity. This is not one of those, you have to pay me to have your song reviewed. All I ask is that if you want to have your song reviewed on the show, submit your music in the form that is in the link tree in my bio. Any music that is played here on the show is going to go on one of 5 of my Devin Song Reviews playlist. You can also find those playlist links in my bio. Everything you need to know about what I'm doing here is in the link tree in my bio. All of the songs that are on one of those 5 playlists, every one of those came through this show at some point. The reason I did 5 playlists is because they are split up by similar genres. So go check out the playlist when you get a chance. See if there is one that you like. Give all of those people a listen. Typically, each week we will have a Q&A session. In a little bit, I will be asking for some questions and we'll answer them right here on the show. Typically, each week we have a musician spotlight interview. I'm always on the hunt for musicians who are doing big things and they're using TikTok and they're using social media to get their music out there. I always have my eyes out for those musicians that are doing some cool things, musicians and bands that are on their way up. I will bring them on for a musician spotlight interview to chat with them and give them another platform to be heard by others. We won't be doing a musician spotlight today simply because we have had so many songs submitted recently. I want to get to as many of those as we possibly can today. So it's a little bit different today than normal. We're just going to do more song reviews today and not have a musician spotlight. Musician or not, this is a fun show. We have a lot of fun with this. So buckle in, get you a drink, and hang out with us. So cheers. Boom, let's go. We're going to start off today with a band called PLH. They submitted a song called Stamina.
I said honestly, I don't know what I'm thinking. Don't think I have the stamina to try.
All right, so obviously influenced by Green Day. All right, so it doesn't sound like we're going to have drums in this song. So I talk about a lot how drums are what really brings the energy in a song. So it definitely has a Green Day feel to it, but I wish I had some drums to go along with it. So from what I can tell, it's just guitars and vocals, and the vocals sound pretty good. The doubles that are being used and everything, it's a pretty thick vocal for not having anything else around it. But the guitars have some low end that I think could have been high passed out, and those rhythm guitars, it's a really good tone. It's a classic Green Day tone that they got with the guitar. There's just a lot of low end coming through for me. Vocals are pretty clean, but the rhythm guitar is really just too far out front, and it's causing the vocals to get drowned out. So that was PLH with a song called Stamina. Definitely would like to hear drums, obviously. Very obvious that this is inspired by Green Day. The sound is very old school Green Day. I can do without the drums. That's not the end of the world for a song like that. The thing that song needed, though, just like if you're doing like an acoustic song, you have to be very careful about how you're finding space in your mix for your instruments. So you can get a very wide, thick sound from limited instruments if you're finding the correct space in the mix. So with that, the rhythm guitars were definitely too far out front. I think they could have been panned harder to the outside. When the harmonies came in, we're adding extra vocals. There's just a lot that sounds very up the middle. Finding space for those would have just filled out the sound without just making it sound like there's just more stuff now. Definitely a cool song. I'm a big fan of Green Day. That song is a good reminder of Green Day. The tone of the guitar sounded very much like Green Day. The vocals sounded very clean, other than the fact that it sounded like everything was up the middle and there just wasn't enough spacing for it. I would just recommend pushing the rhythm guitars back into the mix, widening everything up, finding that space. It would have sounded a little bit better than it did right there. So vocals were just pushed behind the rhythm guitars. That is a common theme when people are mixing with rhythm guitars, is the rhythm guitars are supposed to be there as the foundation for the song. And so it's very easy to want to push that up and hear it more. But when you do that, then you have to push the vocals forward, and you're just playing this battle of something that you're never going to win. Mix wise, there was some things that needed to happen there that did not. Instrumentation wise, I think the guitar tone sounded good, the vocal tone sounded good. It was just a matter of not being mixed perfectly. Songwriting wise, it very much had the formula of a classic Green Day song, so I really liked it. And that was PLH with Stamina. Lil Mose said, this automatically makes me think about watching American Pie. I miss those movies. The early 2000s for me is so nostalgic. Music like that, movies like that. It was a fun time, wasn't it? Definitely could hear that on like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, right? VSO said definitely needs drums. Yeah, it's just they chose not to use it. I don't know why, but that's a stylistic thing. I think drums would have made the song better and more enjoyable, but not every song has to be the same. Jada Basket Case says, I can hear strong skate punk drum beat in my head. Definitely want to hear more from this band. Fantastic, you can. This is PLH, and that was their song called Stamina. Next up today is going to be Elijah Logan with a song called The Other Side. So right off the bat, I can tell there's some weird frequencies that are making everything sound very squished. As always, it seems to be a common thread that rhythm guitars always seem to be mixed too loudly. And from what I'm hearing right now, the drums feel very squashed and very at the background of the song. Yeah, the kick drum's not as much of an issue as the snare, I think. I'm having a hard time hearing the snare very clearly. Like, I can hear it, but it's back there. I think there's a frequency battle that we're hearing from the bass guitar, and I think it's competing actually with the rhythm guitars. The rhythm guitars are very chunky and very low end heavy, and it's actually like they're competing with the bass guitar. That's a cool melodic guitar line. I'm not so sure about the tone, but it's a cool line. So you can hear there's that repeating melodic guitar line has sort of developed into something else, but still had that similarity right there at the end. That was pretty cool. All right, so that was Elijah Logan with a song called The Other Side. Really cool song, very catchy. I think somebody said that in the comments already. Definitely a catchy song. That melodic lead guitar definitely made it more catchy. This is a very common thing in especially pop punk music. Typically, the lead guitar part is very melodic to support the theme of the song. What we heard there is we heard that repeat a couple of times, and then when we got to the bridge and sort of the outro part of the song, playing around in the same scale, but he changed it up so that it had something to be different there at the end. Good use of that guitar lead. The rhythm guitars were very low end heavy and actually seemed to be competing with the bass guitar. When that happens, you've got to go in there and you take out a visual EQ and find out where your instruments are overlapping frequencies. And if you hear a problem, you can go in there and scoop out. In that case, I probably would have just moved a high pass filter over to move some of the low end out of the way for the bass guitar and the kick. But you can go in there and you can find out where they're overlapping. Pick one that you want to maybe scoop out some of that competing frequency. Probably the easiest way to do it, unless you're going to get into some sidechain compression and things like that. In that case, where it's rhythm guitar versus bass guitar, sidechain compression really wouldn't be my way to go. I would choose to go in first and try to figure out where those frequencies are overlapping. Probably just take out some of that low end from the rhythm guitars and let the bass guitar have it. I had a really hard time hearing the snare. The way that I like to mix, I want to hear the snare and the kick drum kind of at the loudest point, and then as I'm adding instruments, I'm always making sure that I can hear the snare and the kick drum very, very clearly every time I add an instrument or an instrument group. So it keeps you from having those issues where you lose your snare or your kick later on in the song as you've added a lot of elements. Also sounded like some reverb issues. Not everything sounded very cohesive or in the same room. The reverb that was used on that lead guitar part sounded different than the rest of the instruments. But like the song, super catchy. The instruments played together very well. I think this was more to do with some issues in the mixing phase of things. There's some potential there. Really like the song. There was probably too much compression or some issue with the way it was EQ'd. Maybe tired ears just didn't realize it and it got finished up and released, but I bet if you went back to that, you probably hear it. Elijah, if you end up watching this, thanks for submitting that song. Again, that was Elijah Logan with The Other Side. VSO says maybe a little less EQ or compression. Lil Mo says this song's pretty catchy. I thought it was catchy too. Jaded Basket Case said love the bridge. Yeah, the bridge was really, really neat. The bridge sort of brought something else to the song, and we had a couple of repeating parts, and then the bridge just sort of breaks that up to bring us to the outro, and I think it ended pretty well. All right, let's keep it rolling. We're going to get to a bunch of them today. This one is from a Cory Mastbeth, and the song is called Names on My Guitars. I said this wasn't a genre-specific show. Here's your example.
I met a girl who fell in love with me in June. 5 months later, she said goodbye to me too soon. No, I'll never see her again, and I'm still singing her songs. So I'll name a guitar after her, move on and say so long. I bought a ring for a girl and I thought I'd...
All right, I like it so far.
2 months in my coat pocket, that box did I carry. No, I'll never see her again, and she don't know what she meant to me.
Vocal sounds really good. The guitars sound good, and we got a good tone coming from the drums.
I don't know why I'm ending up in the same place.
Yeah. You hear that lead in the back? That is how you don't always have to bring it so far out to the front. It's there, but it's not out in the front. I really like that. Alright, so that's kind of weird right there, where we kind of have two leads happening
be.
It was a little too busy right there.
Another time, another life, and maybe then we'll see. No, I'll never see her again.
Yeah, country music can be so overproduced. I think country music is notorious for being overproduced, and I think we're at a really healthy level with this song so far. You know, right here with the verses, it's kind of chill, kind of classic country, and then when the chorus comes in, they're just bringing in just other instruments, and it's sounding so much louder, but it's really just wider, and there's just more. Yeah, looking at the meter right now, it's not too much louder going into the chorus. It's a good way of mixing and making it feel louder. See, right here, I just feel like it's too much. I want that one lead, and I want the other one that's really busy to go away. Later, she said goodbye to me too soon. You know, I really like that. That's a great way of ending your song. I love that bookend of starting and ending a song. We had the intro where he basically did the same thing as that ending, and then everything in the middle, dynamics-wise, was building up and, you know, having a big chorus and then bringing it back down, having another big chorus, and then as we end it, we just go back where we started. That is something I really, really like. I am from Alabama, and so I realize, guys, that I have a southern drawl to my voice. But believe it or not, I'm not a big country music fan. One of the biggest reasons why is I feel like country music is just so overproduced. A lot of people that do really well in country music, they don't even have the accent that I do. It's very, very fake. They put it on for the sake of doing country music. If you have a southern accent, you can tell when people are faking a southern accent. I have a hard time with country music, especially the new stuff. Now, I like some of the classics. I can get on board with that, and that's what this sort of had that feel to it, especially in the verses, was just old school classic country music. The voice was really fantastic. I can tell he's not putting it on for show. I think the instruments work together very, very well, except for those two lead guitars that played together at the same time. I wanted to get rid of the one that was making it super busy and let the other one shine through. This is the same idea as, like, at some point you go halftime and it just sounds big and it sounds different because it's different from what the whole song has been doing. So that's kind of what that one lead guitar was doing, was breaking up the monotony of the rhythm of the song. But the other lead guitar that I was hearing at the same time was just doing the same thing that the whole song was doing. I would have just cut that out and let that one lead shine through. But yeah, song was really, really good, well written. Vocal tone was great. The instrument tones were great. The mix sounded really good. There wasn't a whole lot that I heard that was an issue. I think it was a pretty clean mix, and I really liked that song. That was Cory Mastbeth with a song called Names on My Guitars. This song will be available in one of the playlists after the show, so if y'all want to go check him out, you'll be able to do that. Lil Mo says, hella feeling this. VSO said Morgan Wallace vibe. I don't know who Morgan Wallace is, but I hope that's a good thing. Lil Mo's also said that ambient lead is super nice. Sinclair says, I'm not a country person, but I can tell this is a solid country song. Then VSO says Wallen. I don't know what that means. Maybe Morgan Wallen. Markus Schukowski said, I like the vocal tone here. Bedazzle says, what is this? This is Devin Song Reviews, and that was Cory Mastbeth with a song that we're reviewing right here live. What I do here, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It's not super complicated. I'm happy to do it. Putting on a live show for 2 hours every single Saturday, and then video editing, putting up the replay on YouTube, putting all these songs in playlists, and just all the things that go along with it. It does take up some time, so how I start this off is just with the people that already submitted music throughout the week, and they're already queued up and ready to go. Promise you, if you hang out with us, I'm going to get to the music that you've submitted, but you're just going to have to be a little bit patient with me. Hang out with us on a weekly basis, and you'll see why I do things the way that I do. This next song is by an artist called Cain, and the song is called Billionaires in Space. He put a description on this. I don't have it in front of me, but he literally wrote this, I guess, about all this stuff is going on with SpaceX and stuff, and we're just sending these billionaires to space. And so apparently that's what this song is about. Cain with Billionaires in Space. Like it. They're bringing the funk right off.
Isolated and all alone, get self-help books dropped off our drone. Billionaires in space. Pay no mind to the rising rent, just spread the word through the underground.
You know what I wanted to hear right there with this this guitar part? I would have loved if they had have repeated that Billionaires in Space melody. Like we said, billionaires in space, and then the guitar did the same melody right behind it. That would have been cool.
The seas are rising and you come home. They don't pay no taxes and run on loan. Billionaires in space.
Like if the guitar did that right there.
Times are tough, just drop to your knees and look straight up at the billionaires in space. While we work for them, they break our backs. They're playing dress up in a cowboy hat, launching high above the desert base. There's one big middle finger from the billionaires in space. People can't stop listening.
All right, so mix-wise, I hear some issues with the bass guitar so far. I can actually feel like in my headphones when the bass guitar is going. It's just it's a little too heavy on the low end.
But when they win, they're libertarians, launching high above their desert base.
Like I'd really like to just hear more of the mids coming through with the bass guitar, because it's just everything's very funky. This guitar part right here is very much high end. I don't know if that came through right. It sounds like I just said high end. So there's a lot of room in the mids and mid lows for the bass guitar. So just a missed opportunity there. Because then we would really be hearing the kick drum come through more, and it's already so energetic. That would have just made it off the wall energetic.
One small step for mankind to a living wage. Instead, we're living through a second gilded age. Time has come now, won't you join me as we raise our collective middle finger to the billionaires in space.
Y'all hear how much low end is hitting with that bass guitar? It's just like rattling. That was Gary Cain with Billionaires in Space. It's kind of a funny song. It works well with sort of that funky guitar and just the way that the vibe was and the way that the song felt. It was almost too good to be funny at all, like talking about billionaires in space. I love the idea of it. Hey, let's just write about what we want to. You know, it doesn't always have to be the same stuff that we write about. I like the song. I thought that was really cool. I can appreciate the musicianship with a song like that. One of the reasons I don't really typically listen to that type of music is just because super cool guitar riff gets a little too repetitive for my taste. So they did break it up there with an awesome solo. I think that part was definitely the best part of the song. I think the song itself was really good. Love the way that's put together. I love the idea of the song. The instrumentation, I think just instruments themselves, everything worked really, really well. Super talented guitar work. The bass line itself was really cool, the way it was walking and just sort of complementing what the guitar was doing. And the drums were just sort of out of the way, just holding up the rest of the instruments is really what you want from a song like that. But like I mentioned, low end issues with the bass guitar, competing with the kick, bringing way too much low end for my taste, and just missed an opportunity to really utilize some more mids and low mids to give it kind of a almost like a slappier sound to the bass. I think that would have just made it even better. But overall, absolutely great song. It was a great solo. I think that was definitely the best part of the song, and I'm just appreciative that we got a chance to listen to something so cool. I don't know if y'all were scrolling through some random playlist or if you saw Billionaires in Space. I don't know if you clicked that. Glad we got a chance to hear it here on Devin Song Reviews. Jaded Basket Case said, funky. Sinclair says, oh, that riff comes in hot. I like it. Lil Mose says, love it already. And then Sinclair, who is a fantastic guitarist, who, if y'all don't know my moderator here, Sinclair, wave to everybody. Sinclair is a fantastic guitarist, and I believe you teach guitar. I think you can sign up for lessons with Sinclair. So for him to say, I'm very impressed with the riffs, great guitar player, that holds a lot of weight. And then Markus Schukowski comes in with great solo, exclamation mark. That was Gary Cain with Billionaires in Space. This is Cstlblk. For those of you Game of Thrones fans, you know that as Cstlblk. And the song is called 1955. So check this out. You're going to like it. Yeah, this song is a great example of a really good mix. Everything is so cohesive and the vocals sit really well. But I want you to listen to how well the drums are cutting through the mix. Like, there's not a moment I can't hear them well. And then, like, the rhythm guitars are not taking over everything else like is so common in a lot of music. And because you're just kind of smoothing everything out and dialing things back, you don't have to try too hard to get the vocals right. See, we've got some guitars just sort of keeping things moving right here, but they're very minimal, very simplistic. And that bass line is being able to shine through because everything else is sort of staying out of the way. think the reverb may be a little heavier than it needs to be. I think the reverb it sounds pretty good. I think it could be slightly cleaner than it was. The reverb's not supposed to be overly noticeable, but I don't think it sounded bad at all. I think that was a fantastically mixed song. I don't know too much about what I would change because I think it was very, very well done. Vocals sounded excellent. There wasn't a time where I couldn't hear the drum set very clearly. The way that the guitars were used were exactly how I feel they should be, and they were the foundation of everything else that was happening, and that's really how you should do guitars. Every genre is going to be different. Every artist has a different style to it, but just general principles when it comes to mixing, that is a good example of how to do things correctly. The only critique I think I had there was a little heavy on the reverb, and that is again just an artistic choice that was made. I think I would have just made it differently than they did, but that's okay too. I'd have to listen to it a few more times to really pick up on some of the lyrics, but there were repeating parts. The chorus was really nice, and not every single chorus was the same, so dynamics wise, the song kept on moving. It did not get stale. We had dueling vocals happening there at one point, which I'm a big fan of. If you've ever listened to my music, I like competing vocals, and I like bringing in harmonies and complementing the vocals and doing something a little bit different. It's a really good way of using dynamics to make the song move along and do some cool stuff. I think they used the space correctly. I think things were mixed well. The bass line got to come through there at the instrumental part, I guess. There was a lot of good decisions being made in the production process and in the mixing process. So again, that was Cstlblk with 1955. There's just no vowels in it. So if you go to search for it, it's just Cstlblk. Jaded Basket Case was loving the vibes. Sinclair said, I can't figure out who the vocals remind me of, but classic pop punk emo vibes. I'm with you on that. It's going to hit me later when nobody cares, and I'm just going to like scream out this band name, and my wife's going to look at me and be like, what is wrong with you? But I'm sure we'll remember it later, and I'm going to message you, Sinclair, and be like, this is who it was. Jaded Basket Case also said those drums, though, THO, that means good job. Cstlblk 1955, really great song. Really glad we got a chance to listen to that. It is time for a bit of Q&A. So I know you guys have been throwing some stuff here in the comments, so let me back up and try to catch some of it. So Sinclair asked, best chips, ? And he said, I'm always going to go hot Cheetos. Are we talking flavor or brand? That changes things based on what your question actually is. Clear that up for me real quick, Sinclair. What are you talking about? Best chips. So best chip brand. My instinct was to say Pringles, but I'll be honest with you, I really like Pringles, but it's kind of annoying at this point because of the stinking tube. Like, I don't want my chips in a tube. I am a Southern guy, so I'm going to go with Golden Flake. I think just overall as a brand, Golden Flake just brings the fire. Dill pickle chips are absolutely fantastic. I like salt and vinegar. There is a Golden Flake factory not too far away from me, and so I used to go on field trips, and I got to eat a pickle chip right off of the line, like when it's still hot and fresh. Man, there's no going back after that. I'm going to say Golden Flake. More specifically, Golden Flake, their pickle chips, and then they also have a barbecue pickle chip that was really good too. Yeah, Golden Flake, I think that's just a Southern thing or a Southeastern thing. I'm not sure how far it reaches out, but if you ever see Golden Flake, snatch them up because you're really going to like them. All right, next question. Let's see. Best Disney song cover. I don't know how many people are really out there doing Disney song covers, but I don't think anybody can beat Our Last Night. They have that mashup of Disney songs that they covered. I don't know if you've seen that video, but it's like 10 minutes long, and they just do one after another, and it's pretty dope. So that's going to be my answer for that. Actual recording question from Sinclair. When recording an acoustic that's mic'd, is there a way to limit the sound of the pick hitting the strings? Yes and no. The thing about using a microphone to record is it's going to be a more natural sound, which is one of the reasons you do it. Acoustic guitars, I'm not a big fan of recording DI. I really like using a microphone. So no, in the fact that there's not a whole lot that you can do to avoid it happening, but the things that you can do to limit the way that it has an effect on the sound. One is going to be mic placement. There's so many ways of miking up an acoustic guitar for recording. The one that I like to use if you're just going to use one microphone, I always use a 57 for this. I mean, a Shure 57, it's classic. You can't go wrong with a $100 mic. I like to set it up about 8 to 10 inches away from the guitar. I don't get a measuring tape out, but yeah, just, like probably about 8 to 10 inches away from the guitar. And I point the 57 between the 12th fret and where the hole is. there's a name for it. I don't know what it is, but that's where the 57 gets aimed. So that does take it away from getting too much of the string and pick noise because it's not focused on where I'm actually strumming. So that's one way you can limit the amount of noise that comes from it. Another thing you can do is look at the types of picks that you're using. So the thickness of them is obviously going to have an effect on how loud the strings come through. And then the strings themselves are going to have an effect on that too. I use Elixir mediums on all of my guitars. I think it gives a different tone that I've come to love. It's a little bit darker. It's very thick, warm tone. I use two different types of picks and I go back and forth on them. I really like these guys. 0.73 millimeter. So I go between that. That's a little bit thicker. And the orange ones, which are a 0.6. I don't change up the types of strings I use very often, but I will use a different pick if I need to get a different sound out of it. And then it's just the amount of pressure that you use. The way that you play when you're recording is not the same way that you play when you're playing live. You have to train yourself to be very relaxed and consistent. If you're hitting those strings too hard, it's going to be a bad recording. That's another thing you can do is dial it back on your aggressiveness on how you're strumming. Sinclair says you can use a 57 as a hammer if you need to and it'll be fine. Yeah, it's a great microphone. Shure makes some great stuff. Look, do I want an SM7B? Absolutely I do. But I'm using an SM58 for this and it's fine. These are $100 mics, y'all. This is my thing about home recording is you don't have to have $10,000 in equipment. Make do with what you can afford and learn how to use your stuff. Don't be lazy. Get you a $100 SM57 and learn how to use it before you go spend $400 to $500 on something that just because everybody else uses it. So Lil Mo says the pick hitting the strings kind of gives it nice character to the playing. Yeah, it's all relative. It just depends on the sound that you're wanting to get. One of the techniques that a lot of people are using these days on acoustic songs, take your electric guitar unplugged and record with a mic just to get the strumming noise. And then you can just creep that into your mix and it just makes the strumming sound even fuller than it did. All right, another question. You have a few guitars. Which one is your favorite? I don't have a ton of guitars. The ones I have behind me are the ones you see. I have an ukulele over there. This hard one, it's mirrored, whatever. I have my acoustic. So, see that? That is a old school Ibanez that I've had since junior year of high school. Best $350 I've ever spent in my life. I love that thing. I've gone through a lot of equipment. That acoustic guitar has been with me from the beginning. This pink one right here is a little junior Strat that I bought for my daughter. Realized that her hands are just not quite big enough to be able to do anything with that yet. I've used it in a recording or two just for fun. But my favorite is my fat Strat right there. The one that I want is a Tom DeLonge signature guitar. I don't want to spend $2,000 on it because that is about what you have to spend to find one these days. After researching what a Tom DeLonge signature guitar is, we're talking wood and hardware here, guys. It's not overly complicated. What I did is I bought a Squier Bullet for $200 at Guitar Center one night. I was playing around with it. I was like, holy crap, this sounds really good for $200. Yes, I'll take it. Part of what I love about it is it had the hardtail bridge already on it. I replaced the humbucker with Seymour Duncan Invader. So really the biggest difference between mine and an actual one is really just the wood of the body. There's a video out there that is the algorithm is picking up again where I basically said I will argue to the death that you can't tell the difference in the way the wood of my $200 guitar sounds compared to an actual Tom DeLonge signature guitar. There are probably people out there that could tell the difference. I just don't care. Anybody that's going to listen to my guitar playing, they're not going to know the difference. And this cost me a whole lot less than a signature guitar. I did a hashtag guitar talk on that one. People are trying to blow me up saying, oh yeah, you can hear the difference. And if you can't hear the difference, you should get another hobby. And it's not about the sound, it's about the feel and the vibrations. I'm just you guys are missing the point. One person even said the other people don't matter. It's literally said the people listening to your music don't matter. I'm dumbfounded by the people out there. It's those daggum guitar gatekeepers. Get out of here with that mess. Y'all can't tell the difference. I'm here to tell you. The next song that I'm going to play is from Xtine and the Reckless Hearts. The song is called Dead Weight. Let's listen. We wasted no time getting right to it.
Sorry to say, but you're just not enough for me. It's hard to explain, but I feel this way. And I could be wrong, but I'm done tying myself up there with your promises. I'm headed on a one-way track, never go looking back. See you on the other side, you know now.
Yeah, very, very grunge punk. I like it. Yeah, so here's a good example of knowing how to utilize the rhythm guitars. It would be it'd be really easy for a song like this to have the rhythm guitars too loud, but they've done a good job of just sitting it where it needs to be. So, you know, as pretty common as the bass guitar and the kick drum are competing, it's hard to focus on one or the other. So yeah, good use of the bass guitar and how it's working with the rhythm guitar. So if you just focus in on the bass guitar for a second, and you'll hear kind of what I was wanting from that previous song. A good use of mids. Love the vocals. They're coming through real well. They're grungy but still clean. Drums are nice and energetic. I like that right there where there's multiple vocals coming in. That's actually very, I don't mean to... this comparison probably gets annoying for every female vocalist, but Hayley Williams actually did a great job of those sort of harmonies, the way that it's being used here. So I'd be curious if there's a little bit of that inspiration. Nice. I like that. Great way to end a really cool song. She's here dropping in, and that was her band. Really, really cool song. I like that a lot. It was kind of that grungy punk sound to it, but it still sounded very clean, and the way that the instruments were working together was the right way. Drums were bringing a ton of energy. Rhythm guitars were the foundation of the song without being in the way, and what that did is it allowed the bass guitar to shine through, utilizing some of the mids and low mids to give it an extra guitar sound to it, which is definitely sort of a punk technique that a lot of punk music is going to use. Just kind of checked all the boxes for doing the right things for this style of music. And then the vocals themselves, there was some rasp in there was some grunginess, but it was still really clean, didn't get out of control. And then the parts where there was extra harmonies brought in, I can hear a little mixing issue with those, nothing too big. The way that they came in really reminds me of sort of the way that they would produce Paramore and Hayley Williams vocals, a lot of the same techniques there. So that was really really cool to hear that. Song sounded good. The lyrics were very clear, easy to listen to. Song was arranged really well. The instruments were working together really well. And then mixing wise, I think that was a really good, clean mix for a song like that. And I like the artistic technique, the decisions that were made, especially there at the end. That is one of those things like, hey, we don't have to follow the same formula of every song that's out there. You can do fun stuff like that, and it just makes it different, just makes it more interesting. Great job on that. Thanks for submitting that, and thanks for being here. Sinclair really liked it, said looking forward to checking out more of your music. Lil Mose said this song was amazing. So good. Pocket Hoppin' just jumped in. Hey, Pocket Hoppin' just came in the last half, but felt great, or great feel. And now Sinclair and Pocket Hoppin' are talking to each other. Ariel said, thanks for listening. Well, we wouldn't be able to listen to it if you hadn't have submitted it. So thank you for submitting it and taking that step. You know, I feel like a lot of people are nervous to submit music, to have somebody you don't know sit behind a screen and tell you what's wrong with your music. The reason I do this is to give you the ability to be heard by some new people and give you a critique that is actually helpful, something to listen to as you produce and you mix your next songs. This only comes from a place of positivity, but I'm also not going to tell you that everything is perfect like your friends and family do. I will tell you if I think something needs to be worked on, but it's just from a place of love. Independent musicians have to get better at this thing called making music, and if you're not willing to take criticism and critiques from people that you don't know, you're never going to be told the truth, I don't think. If you only go to your friends and family that like you or already like your music, it's going to be really hard for them to hear the things that you actually do need to work on. So yeah, anybody that submits music and wants to be a part of this, I'm super appreciative of it, and I think it gets overlooked a lot. I wouldn't have a show, I wouldn't be doing the things that we're doing if it wasn't for you guys. Let's keep it moving. A new friend that has hung out with us the last couple of weeks, he's submitted music. We just hadn't had a chance to get to him yet, so I wanted to make sure we got to him today. I don't see him today, but he's been here the last 2 weeks. This is Rula Gunz with a song called Runaway. Check it out. I love this intro. It's probably a good use of using Format on the vocals to get that effect. And I like here, we're intentionally misusing a compressor to give it that pumping motion.
You said you'd hold me down, but you held me back. You turned a heartbreak into a heart attack. I don't think that I could ever take you back, cause it's sentimental in my memory. You filled my cup and now it's
so we started off the song with I think the way to get that sound was to use a high pass filter and a low pass filter and just take out a lot of it until it has this very weird like underwater sound, I guess. And then when you remove those filters, it just sounds so much cleaner and louder because you increase the amount of frequencies that are coming through. So in these kind of mixing some of that. Like I said, we got some little sample or loop that's got a reverse on it. A couple of ways you can do that. That could just be a normal sample, and you could automate that effect to where like you automate it going up and then spike down, going up, doing that. Or you could just use a compressor the wrong way to get it to do that pumping effect.
I just think that you should run away now. It would only hurt us both for you to stay now. I just feel like there is nothing left to say now. Turn around and waste my time.
Yeah, but it's a pretty clean mix, I think.
It's sentimental in my memory. You filled my cup and now it's empty. You don't love me.
So there is a bit of inconsistency on the amount of volume throughout the song. It's not very consistent. It's okay. That's just that's part of it.
I just think that you should run away now. It would only hurt us both for you to stay now. I just feel like there is nothing left to say now. Please turn around and waste my time and run away right now. In my memory, filled my cup and now it's empty. You don't love me, you should leave me. If I say different, don't believe me.
new friend of the show, Rula Gunz with Runaway. Really cool. Not one of those things that I go seeking out all the time as far as genre or style of music. But when I listened to this before, there was just some techniques that were being used there. I was like, oh, this would be a good opportunity to kind of talk about what is going on and use that as an example. Gave a couple of the examples of what I heard and sort of how I would replicate those effects. But I think it's important to remember that there's tons of different ways to do any of this stuff. There's no one way to mix music to get that pumping action that you hear. That is like when you misuse a compressor, that happens. And over here, people will say, well, you don't want that to happen. That's actually bad. You're not using your compressor correctly. Screw that. I'm going to use it as an effect, and you're not going to tell me what I can and can't do. This was the auto-tune debate. That is misusing pitch correction. So you were told when everybody started using auto-tune as a vocal effect, pitch correction is supposed to just help you a little bit without being very noticeable. It's supposed to be pretty transparent just to help get those notes in line. And then somebody says, no, we're going to use this as an effect, and people love it. Nothing that I tell you or anybody else tells you has to be 100% true. Never stop experimenting. Try new stuff because you never know what you're going to find out about what you can do. And so there's a lot of cool stuff that happened in that song. The way that I would replicate that beginning is high pass, low pass filters, bring them in to where it's just the mids, and that's going to give it that weird like underwater vibe. And then you can actually automate it to where those filters go away and it just sounds like somebody's just like pushing it into your ears. So it's a really cool effect. A couple of those things that happened with his music. So really cool song, Rula Gunz with Runaway. Sinclair said, not my style, but this is excellent. That snap was a nice touch. A lot of little things adding color. And Sinclair now remembers who he was. And now you are commenting too fast for me to keep up with. Somebody said, be generous and cash at me $5. Why? This next song is from a band called Overscene, and the song is called Thunder Rolls. Check it out. Yeah, I listened to a little bit of this earlier too. I like how we're using some sound effects. It's a little on the nose being thunder rolls, but it works. It's okay. Really sets the scene for the song.
In the morning, not a soul inside. The city's looking like a ghost town on a moonless summer night.
It's a good melody.
The raindrops on the windshield, there's a storm moving in. He's heading back from somewhere that he never should have been. And the thunder rolls, and the thunder rolls. Every light is burning in the house across town.
Yeah, that's my only beef with it so far is just like the thunder and rain in the background is a little too on the nose. But it's okay.
Hoping she's not right. I'm praying it's the weather that's kept him out all night. And the thunder rolls, and the thunder rolls. The thunder rolls, and the lightning strikes. Another love grows cold.
Yeah, it is it's a Garth Brooks cover.
And the storm blows on out of control. Deep in her heart, the thunder rolls.
I mean, if you're going to do Garth Brooks, you better bring it. And he's bringing it. We were just talking about Garth Brooks earlier. That's like the little bit of country I can enjoy.
Out the window as it pulls into the drive. She rushes
That's a fantastic guitar line to go in there.
He's alive.
This is like a cool mixture of, you know, classic Garth Brooks country with like some rock elements.
And the lightning flashes in her eyes.
If they came in with a scream right now, I would lose it. I think I need to look into covering some country music. Like imagine I don't know his name, but the singer from Stained. This is what, like, imagine this is kind of what I'm imagining vocally. Really, just as a whole. Okay, now I'm feeling like some Three Doors Down with that guitar tone.
She runs back down the hallway to the bedroom door. She reaches for the pistol.
I think Overscene just created a new genre.
Tells a lady in the mirror he won't do this again. 'Cause tonight will be the last time she wonder where he's been. In the thunder rolls. In the thunder rolls. Thunder rolls. In the lightning shines.
Okay, so that goes on for another 45 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off so that we can get to the rest of them. Overscene, so it's Overscene with Thunder Rolls, which is a Garth Brooks cover song. Fantastic job of taking a country song, somebody like Garth Brooks, and making it feel brand new. So that is a well done cover. But when reviewing a cover, I do have to limit what we are critiquing and what we are reviewing, because you didn't write the song, but you did change it up. So production wise, you did some really cool stuff there. Love the way the guitars came in. I was going back and forth from like a Three Doors Down vibe to Stained. The biggest critique I have, because I want to give something, is the electric guitars or the rhythm guitars were very, very high gain. Probably were a little too harsh, but again, I'm being super picky just because I wanted to give something. It's something that I noticed because I am a rhythm guitarist, so I do tend to listen to guitar tone, especially rhythm guitar tone, very, very well. It was a little harsh on the high end because of the amount of gain. I think I would have tried to find a different tone to go with the rest of that, but overall, very, very cool. Very different from the original as far as what I remember, and it worked very well. So that was Overseen with a Garth Brooks cover of Thunder Rolls. Jaded Basket Case is here hanging out. Jaded Basket Case is in Drive-By Cinema, and they submitted a song called Summer Sonnet. Hung out with us a good bit of last week. The longer you hang out in these lives with us, it gets you moved up the queue a little bit, because I'm going to take care of people who are here hanging out and participating. So Drive-By Cinema with a song called Summer Sonnet. Let's listen.
I spent the summer with my best friends, but just can't seem to get you out my head. Wheel the world off just to make it through, and talk all night of what it's coming to.
Well, I like that harmony.
Don't close your eyes.
So we're mixing some electronic drums with organic drums. I've heard a lot of this recently. Seems to be like the new pop punk thing to do. Okay, loving that hook. I like this chorus. So I feel like the drum tone is flatter than I want it to be. I'd be curious to see how those drums were recorded. It kind of sounds like It sounds like live drums to me, but maybe just not as many mics as you'd like to have. Alright, bass guitar has some low end issues. It is slightly muddy, just bass guitar wise. I like that. That was probably the best transition so far. That's a good hook though. It's very easy to remember and sing along to. There's those competing vocals that I love. So that is Drive-By Cinema with Summer Sonnet. Jaded Basket Case is here and says he is the guitarist. Go see Jaded Basket Case, follow if you liked it, and check out more of Drive-By Cinema Band. Being honest with you, not the best recording and production. Super appreciate the vibes to it. The song is really cool. Biggest thing that I noticed was issues with the transitions. They just didn't feel quite right. Transitions are one of those things that you learn to get better at. It is a big step that people don't always realize. You can write really good sections. This is what production is the gluing of everything together. In this song, it seemed like we had a really cool section and we weren't sure how to get to the next one. Not overly terrible or anything like that, just some issues with the transitions. The electronic drums thing, I know this is something that I'm hearing a lot in pop punk music now. Not my favorite thing in the world, but I'm not the only one listening. It doesn't matter. If you like using it, go for it. But that was really highlighting the transition issue when you have a section of organic instruments and then all of a sudden there's these electronic drums. Got to be very careful about how you are mixing the two together. The drums themselves, it sounded like they were recorded live, probably not a great drum mic setup. But again, we're talking about home recording. I'm assuming we did this in-house. Sometimes you got to use what you got, but recording is the number one thing you have to get right. If you record really good takes and you get good recordings, it sure does make the mixing and mastering a whole lot easier. If I got those tracks, fully understanding that you did what you could to record the drums, it just means that there's a lot more you have to do on the back end of the mixing to get those to sound the way that they should. They definitely sounded a little flat. I think there was a guitar in the beginning, I think like the lead guitar, sounded like it was slightly out of tune at times. So make sure that you're tuning before every single take that you do, because it doesn't take long before you're slightly out of tune and it just kind of makes it obvious sometimes. The vibe of it, I love it. I love pop punk. I love the hook. I think the vocals sound really good. The guitar work was really good. So you said you're the guitarist. I liked it. I just think it had more to do with some production issues and some mixing issues. The overall sound of it did sound overly compressed again. Just everything felt kind of squashed. I don't know what squashed is a vegetable, so squished is what we'll go with. But the song itself is good. Y'all keep at it. Keep learning about recording and mixing and all the other things, and I think you guys will be on to something really cool. Sinclair said fresh stretched strings. That's a hard one to say. Always a must. That is what this show is all about. I'm not going to hate on you. I'm going to love on you all day long, but I'm also going to tell you the things that you can get better at. Sounds like you'll have a lot of potential. Keep learning, keep working at it. Last song review of the day is for our buddy Markus Schukowski. Submitted a song a couple of weeks ago. We listened to it last week. Markus submitted a new one this week. So Markus, wave at everybody to let them know you're here. Here is Markus Schukowski with a song called Unity. Hey, Liam Kramer. Good to see you.
You say it's us against them, but I'm not a part of you. You say it's us against them, but you want it anyway. I say hear what you want in your mouth. Now you want away, so you don't have to listen to me. Rebel on, let it out now. I don't expect you, but don't pay when you fall down. There's way too much hatred. Unity is an illusion, so why don't we change ourselves?
Yeah, I love this electro rock stuff. So that synth that came in right there in the background, feel like the reverb needed to be EQ'd a little bit more than it was. I feel like it should be cleaner, but it's still a cool sound. Yeah, these bass lines that we've been hearing today have been really fantastic. That's the one I'm talking about, that synth right there. I feel like the reverb just needs to be cleaner than it is. Ooh, I'm liking that. Oh, come on now, Markus. I like that. That's good. That could be the perfect guitar tone. I really like the guitar tone you had on that. Very cool. I like the production of it, the way that it progressed throughout the song. So I know I harped on that synth a couple of times throughout the song. I'm going to do it again because I'm having to be picky to find something. I think just overall, the biggest critique I have is going to be the reverb, because there's a lot of it. I have to be very careful about making sure that reverb is super clean. So it's pretty simple to do. You can at least just put a high pass filter and just dial that in until it sounds very clean on the back end. I like to solo my reverb so I can listen to reverb without the instruments, and that'll give you a really good idea of what the reverb is actually adding to the song and to the instruments. Overall, for that song, that's the biggest critique I have, is I think the reverb needed to just be cleaned up some, and that synth that came in was a little too dark for my taste. I would have pushed it back even more so you're not really paying too much attention to it. I would have dialed that back some, cleaned it up, and really just relied on the reverb from that and what it's just adding to the ambiance of the song, if you will. But really great song, Markus. I'm being picky because your music is really fantastic. That guitar tone just seemed to be absolutely perfect. So well done. That was Markus Schukowski with Unity. Sinclair says, when Devin has to get picky, you know you done well. Lloyd Moon said, reverb is tricky for everyone. Less is always more. It is very difficult, but the idea is you bring in the reverb until you hear it and it's noticeable, and then you just dial it back some because you don't want it to be overly noticeable. Reverb is just one of those effects that you're using just to sort of bring everything together, make it sound like it's in the same room, give it some depth. You know, imagine yourself standing in front of a stage with a band on stage. You hear reverb. You know, it's all around you. So you're trying to replicate that a little bit, but you can't overdo it. And if you overdo it, it muddies up your entire mix.